One, a two, a one.
It's time for the Better Horses Radio Show. So let's saddle up and ride as we explore the Western way of life, horses and cows, family and friends, a relationship with the land, and a relationship with God. It's all here on Better Horses Radio. Now let's hit the trails with the Better Horses team.
And welcome to another episode of Better Horses Radio. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And together we're going to be talking about the equestrian industry. And Merle, I think the theme of this show is versatility.
I was going to say, you don't know what you're going to hear next.
So we've got a great show coming on board, and we are going to cross the patterns on multiple disciplines within this show. We want you to stay with us as we talk about everything that's going on about horses. And you know what? I got to tell you something. We've got one of the world famous world professionals in the dressage arena, and we're excited about going into that arena. And you know, dressage is a French word called dresser, and that means to train. See, there's your fun fact for the day.
I did not know that.
I just found that out. So we're actually going to have a lot of fun with this. We'll talk about the guests that are coming on board. And we have Casey Jones, who's a 9-time NFR steel wrestling qualifier from Decatur, Texas.
We also have Michael Bragdell, a world champion dressage competitor and a professional trainer.
And you know what? One of the things that I'm looking forward to is talking to Matt Joe from the Flint Hills Ranching Adventures. We talked about arena work all the time, Merle, but what about taking that horse out in 1 million acres of virgin tall grass in the Flint Hills in mid-Kansas?
Man, that's where they say things get real out there, you know. It'll be interesting to talk to Matt.
You know, I think it is going to be really interesting. And, you know, it's the gold standard over there with quarter horses. I think our guests are coming in with the dressage arena, and Casey Jones and Michael Bragdell, they're going to talk about their breeds. You know, there's 350 different breeds of horses and ponies out there, just so you know.
Wow, I did not know that.
See, there's another fun. I am full.
You are full of it today. I mean information, yeah.
But before we get started, Merle, I want to take us over to the Better Cattle segment, and Mark Uphold is going to deliver his thoughts on the program. Mark, take it away.
Well, Ed, hope everybody had a great holiday weekend and hope they ate a lot of beef as well. We'll get to that in just a moment. I want to, if I may, do a little bit of wrap-up here before we get into the report, a wrap-up of our tribute to Patrick Gotch, founder of RFD-TV, who passed away a little over a week ago now. I was able to attend a visitation and funeral last Thursday and Friday in his hometown of Elkhorn, always very proud of Elkhorn, just outside of Omaha. 2 very nice services, Thursday night visitation and the Friday funeral, attended by, of course, a lot of current former employees, programmers like yourself, Ed, and rodeo competitors. A lot of flowers, a lot of roses. Of course, Patrick loved spotlighting agriculture in the Rose Parade with a float many, many years. Penny Gilley sang a song during the funeral that she wrote for the family. Larry the Cable Guy came off the road, did one of the readings to honor Patrick. Several of his nephews wore bib overalls to the funeral, and they were very proud of that. And the procession to the cemetery, led by a 40-20 John Deere with a big American flag on the back. Patrick would have loved that, and he will be missed. Well, we mentioned the holiday weekend. Hope everybody ate a lot of beef. Retailers and hotels and restaurants bought fairly heavy ahead of the holiday. Everybody got at least one good day of weather this past weekend, hopefully. A lot of the country, though, had one day of bad weather, and we're certainly praying for those who are recovering from those tornadoes. Gosh, how many states showing tornadoes over the weekend? Hard to look at some of the videos of towns and travel centers, shopping centers destroyed by these storms. Elsewhere, last week's neutral cattle on feed report helped neither buyers or sellers really in this futures trade. Cattle and feeder cattle trade neither a firm foothold here as we move to the end of the week, end of the month here. And we see a market, though, generally backing off from multi-year highs. Watching August live cattle holding the 178 level or better. October live cattle holding 180 or better. Now the top side not far off highs we saw right after the holiday in our view. Now looking at feeder cattle, August we see 259.70, a low number to hold here, but we really hope that we don't get too far from that 260 level actually. That's going to be it for the week. Now, June is dairy month. May was beef month. So maybe even though May over, we might have a glass of milk with that steak during the next 30 days of June. Thanks, Ed. I'm Mark Oppold, wishing you a profitable week ahead.
And thank you, Mark. We appreciate that. And to update all of our listeners who watch the RFD, Patrick Gotch was the founder and CEO of Rural Radio, RFD, the Cowboy Channel, and Rural Farmers Media. And we are going to send our prayers and our thoughts to his family.
He was a true visionary.
And we appreciate everything he's done as far as the Western way of life. In the meantime, we've got Better Horses Radio coming your way. We'll be right back right after these messages. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
Stay with us.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
2024 is the year to compete in the world's largest horse show, the Pinto World Championship. This 13-day event begins June 8th, starting with our youth weekend through June 22nd, and caters to all riding levels and ages. With over $1 million in cash and prizes, there are no qualifications required to enter. Held in Tulsa, Oklahoma, located at the Ford Complex, the Pinto World Championship caters to all types of equines. With over 700 classes, the Pinto Show welcomes a variety of breeds to compete. It's a family environment with healthy competition. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
Routine dental examination and treatments are essential for high-quality horse care. To prevent potential problems, a horse's mouth should be examined at least once a year. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins, Equine Field Service Veterinarian at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. We can examine the mouth and provide a treatment plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
John Deere is known for quality equipment. This quality has created a perception that John Deere is more expensive than other brands. But high quality doesn't mean high priced. The truth from buyers in our area is customers who have purchased a John Deere compact utility tractor saved more than $2,000 when buying from Heritage Tractor. Dare to compare us before buying. You and your wallet will be surprised. Nothing runs as long as a Deere, and we'll prove it with our exclusive 10-year warranty. Visit heritagetractor.com/compare to learn more.
And welcome back to Better Horses. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And you know, Merle, as we promised, this is going to be a show of versatility. And our first segment is going to be brought to you by Kleinschmidt's Western Store. If you've ever wanted to get geared up for Western gear, I'm telling you, Higginsville, Missouri is where they're located. It's one store, 30,000 square feet of nothing but the best apparel and boots that you could find in the Midwest.
It's the best Western store west of the Mississippi. I don't know.
It's like the place to go. And one of the things that I'm looking forward to is this conversation we have coming up next. KC Jones. Now, this guy, he's an entrepreneur, Merle, and he's also tackling a lot of farm animals, and he's got great business ideas. We'll talk about that also. But more importantly, this guy has been a professional rodeo for over 20 years. He's been steer wrestling, and he's been involved in the sport since he was a child. I got to tell you, he's a 9-time NFR qualifier there at the National Finals Rodeo, and he's a one-time champion at the NCFR, the Circuit Finals Rodeo, and he was also a four-time qualifier there too. You know, I know he's in his 50s. I'll let him tell you he's old, but he is probably one of the best guys as far as promoting. He's like a rodeo ambassador, and he does a lot of pro fantasy rodeos. We'll talk about this, but more importantly, KC, welcome to Better Horses Radio.
Heck, super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You know, you've been with the National Finals Rodeo 9 times. You've earned over $1 million in receiving the pro card. I got to tell you, you've been doing this for so long. You found yourself in a lot of other business opportunities. Talk to me about that transition from going to a rodeo professional to doing a businessman.
Yeah, it kind of all started back, growing up on a little farm, and my parents were school teachers. Dad was a wood shop teacher, and then they had a little farm and ranch that he worked on after school. And then my mom was a business school teacher, and so they shipped me off to college. I went on a college rodeo scholarship to University of Wyoming, and they would never let me get my pro card until I got a degree. And so, and they kind of drilled into me like rodeo doesn't last forever, so you need to work harder outside the arena than you do in the arena. And of course, all I want to do is tackle farm animals, but I had to play by their rules. So it was good to kind of open my mind up and really kind of work on relationships and networking while I was rodeoing, because we're going everywhere, meeting everybody. And then I really got passionate about, rodeo's done so much for me that I wanted to give back. And that's what we really like about, fantasy and creating the games for rodeo, because it brings in new people. It gets people to pay attention more to rodeo, and creates attachment points where they follow along. And then like we do the official after party at NFR Rodeo Vegas. It's actually 21 years old this year. It's old enough to drink. So we did over 210 free nights of entertainment there for rodeo fans. And then we also always come up with perks for the rodeo contestants to show up, and they win prizes, and they get certain benefits of being a rock star at the NFR for 10 days.
That's exciting. So take a step back and talk about the Pro Fantasy Rodeo. How does that get started, and how does the general public get involved?
Yeah, it's crazy. That's, 21 years old too. And so like when we first started, we just, farm kids, we'd always kind of pick a team, and then we'd throw in $5, and we thought, man, this internet, when it's out now, and if we put it online, then more people could build the pot, and we could win more money. So we put it on the internet, and back in the day, especially in our market, like they didn't have smartphones until Pro Fantasy was 1993, and then they didn't have smartphones till 2007. So what we did was, we had a website, but most of our entry forms we mailed out. An entry form, and people wrote a check and sent it back to the office, and then we keep track, on the internet, and you could look at results. But like people wouldn't even run a credit card online back then. They didn't trust the internet.
Yeah. And
so it's changed a lot now. 98% of our entries come all through, online. But it's been a lot of fun, and like we get the calls. We get the calls at the office, and any customer's always number one, and we get a call saying, well, what's this rodeo deal, and what's saddle bronc riding? So we explain it to them, and then we get a call back, and like, I think I need to come down to the finals, get some tickets. How do you get tickets down there? And then you hear back from the same guy that, well, I got season tickets here at Ellensburg. I'm going every night. And then I'll call back and say, well, how come Cody Wright's not winning? So you can see the evolution of really getting people in the game it's just kind of like you go to a horse race, you put $2 on the bay, boy, you're going to be in the game,
Yeah. Hey, Casey, something I think is really important that you do or that the PFR does is the Golden Circle of Champions. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that does and how you guys give to that?
Yeah, it's really fun. So we started, it's called the Celebrity Tattoo League. And so I kind of invite some influencers during the National Finals Rodeo, and like the rodeo announcers, because then organically, I never had enough money to pay them, but organically they kind of bring up fantasy rodeo during the rodeo, saying, oh, this guy's on my fantasy team. And then we'd, get rodeo celebrities like Donnie Gay and Oak Berry to play. And then we'd get podcasters, on there. And then they pick a team, and it's free to play, but then the winner gets to design the loser's tattoo. And so you talk about pressure. They'd rather pay to win it, but it's free. But I mean, they look at they're the first ones to look at the standings after the performance every night. And I have an option to where if they don't want the tattoo, they can end up giving their charity $1,000 to get out of it. But if they do get the tattoo, Pro Fantasy Rodeo will give the charity an extra $5,000. So then they have more pressure on them.
Oh, that's
so
good.
Actually, this year Anthony Lucia, he actually didn't lose it, but the guy that lost it, he was kind of crawfishing, and so Anthony stepped up and said, "I'll get the tattoo if you're giving my charity $5,000." So we went found a tattoo parlor down there at San Antonio, and he got a tattoo, and we wrote the Golden Circle of Champions, which is a great organization. You know, they do so much, and Anthony's just first class. He really promotes the industry, and he's really passionate about. That was his charity that he picked, so it ended up being really good.
And Casey, did I hear you right? You said podcasters and maybe radio personalities and television personalities, maybe Ed Adams.
Okay, here we go.
You bet.
This is going to be edited, I think, soon.
You gotta make sure you're able to get that ink on you.
Well, do you get to pick what tattoo you get? Or do you pick
the
it?
winner of the tattoo league picks what the loser gets. So Flint, the very first one was Flint Rasmussen won it, and then Justin Rumford, he lost it, and he was actually the barrel man out there that year at the NFR, and he just had triplets. Well, I think Flint was going to get a Green Bay Packer logo on him or something like that.
Okay, that'd be good. I could probably get persuaded into that one. So
I can't remember. It was a sports team, but they talked him into getting a clown barrel with 3 stars that represents his triplets. So Rump wears that as proud as anybody. He loves it.
You know, if it's for good cause, I can see a lot of people jumping on board with this. You've been almost a rodeo ambassador for what's going on, but I got to tell you, you're still staying active. So I think just a couple of years ago, you were in the Cinch Time Championship over there in the Lazy E. Are you still staying as active as ever?
No, I'm just a little fat and lazy. That driving's kind of what took me out of it. But no, we have some good guys that come by here and practice, and I try to keep steers, and I don't charge anybody to teach them how to steer wrestle. And we've been having a lot of good fun just keeping. Now it seems like it's easier for me to watch them succeed than me out there sweating and taking bumps and bruises.
Yeah, that's a true. When we get older, we can't think about that kind of stuff.
You know, going forward on the you seem to be in Vegas quite a bit. I know we have the Run for the Million is coming up on the reigning championship in August 12th. Are you doing a lot of? Do you find yourself in Vegas most throughout the year? Yeah,
we do have our 10 days activations out there, and then we bring on some really good partners. And so we're out there, really dialing in the promotion and dialing in, the logistics and signing the entertainment and making sure we have the transportation and all this backline of the stage and all the rooms. And it's quite a big lift. And then it's kind of fun. Last year, I created a new event. After 20 years of Rodeo Vegas, I created a new event called Rehab. Because when we're out there 17 days, and you're in the middle of the desert, and you're never drinking enough water, and you're never getting enough sleep, and you're talking over the crowd or the band, and you get dehydrated. And so we've always, like the last, being out there operating for 20 years, we make sure we get IVs, and that really helps you. And then stay hydrated. And so last year I created an event called Rehab, because there's 10 nights of, one of the taglines of Rodeo Vegas is 24/10. So it's 24 hours, 10 nights, and see how many guys are tough enough. There's been a few of them that worked for us. My guys, they were 24/10. But I wanted to create an event to, for rodeo fans to be at in the morning. So we had Rehab last year, where you get you show up and we had free coffee, and then we had IV, had a bunch of nurses set up there to give everybody IVs. A lot of the contestants come over there because they're busy, and they got to stay on top of their game. And then we had chiropractors, we had massage therapists, we had a blowout bar. The ladies love that. They didn't have to get their hair done. They just go down there, and these girls would fix their hair up. And we had a Bloody Mary bar that you could put a slider and bacon and chicken wings, and you could dress it up as fancy as you want to. And so it was really fun. So our second year, we're moving it actually to the east entrance of Cowboy Christmas. So we're going to have a big footprint, bringing on some really good partners, and even going to go bigger in 2024.
And if you're just joining us, we're talking to Casey Jones, and if somebody wants to find out more information, how would they find that out?
Yeah, so this is great timing because we're our big game is during the National Finals Rodeo. You get your fantasy team for all 10 days. Well, we're doing our Christmas and July game, so you're picking a rodeo team in for the month of July. So we're going to track the 20 biggest rodeos, and so we'll open entries June 15th, and you have to get your fantasy team in by the 1st of July, and then you don't have to do nothing. You just watch your team win. And at the end of it, we're giving away a Ram 1500 4-door pickup. And then we have all kinds of, and we pay down, I don't remember how many places, and we have prize challenges. But you can go to profantasyrodeo.com.
That's profantasyrodeo.com. Everyone,
Yep.
We're talking to Casey Jones, answering the question, what do you do after you've been an NFR steer wrestling champion? This is what you do. So you're a great entrepreneur, and you got a lot of great business ideas. Casey, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on board. Any advice you'd like to give any of the young guns that are coming up on steer wrestling?
TRY. That's all it takes in this world. You just got to do more effort than anybody else, and you can do anything you want to.
There you have it. Well, we're going to stop it there. Casey, again, we appreciate you coming on board, and we want everyone to stay with us for more Better Horses coming your way. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these messages. And welcome back. And we're glad you joined us here on Better Horses. Merle, this is going to be a show. We talked about versatility. This is what we have coming up.
You know, every week I think, man, that's a really good show. And this week is no different. I mean, we go from Vegas, we're going to Maryland and all different types of rodeos to horse show events. And our next guest is certainly known well in his discipline.
And you know, this segment is brought to you by the Pinto Horse Association of America. If you haven't signed up, it is not too late. The Pinto World Championship Show is held in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the Tulsa Fairgrounds. And it's going to start on June 8th. We have over 700 classes that are going to begin all the way to June 22nd. So there is all disciplines. And Merle, I was at a show this weekend. People are still not realizing that you don't have to have the breed of Pinto. You can have solid breeds. Every breed imaginable is able to compete in this show.
If it's got 4 legs and a tail, it looks like a Pinto to Daryl Bilkey.
Yeah, that's who's the CEO and the chief operating officer of the program. And talk about competitors and talk about professional trainers. If you're going to this show, you're going to want to hear this next guest.
Well, our next guest is a world champion dressage competitor and professional trainer at Hilltop Farm in Northern Maryland. I'd like to welcome Michael Bragdell.
Thank you, Merrill. Thanks for having me.
Michael, really glad you joined us, and I appreciate you coming on board. And let's talk about the dressage competition. And you've been in this for many years. How did you get started? And talk to everybody on how far you've gotten on this in this discipline.
Well, I'm originally from Sweden, and probably like a lot of kids in Sweden started riding in riding schools. My dad was always into horses. We couldn't afford horses when I was a kid, so he dragged me along one day to the riding club, and I got my first riding lesson when I was 10 or 11, and it sort of got the bug from there, and it sort of stuck and and dragged me across the world, and now I'm here in the States, and I've been here for quite a few years now. So,
you know, that's a really neat story, Michael. I think it's interesting. There's a lot of people in this industry that have, you know, their grandparents did it and their parents did it and now they're doing it. And my like you, my parents had nothing to do with horses. My mom had a horse that she rode but not showed. And I think it's interesting too. Once you get bit with the bug, it doesn't necessarily, you know, run in the bloodline all the time.
No, exactly. My dad was he kind of grew up in the countryside in Sweden, and the grandparents and the great grandparents had neighbors that were farmers, and so he saw the horses that way, and always took a liking to the horses, and
Sure.
it wasn't until he got older he got sort of into it, and that's sort of I rode on the tailcoat on that, and
Yeah,
then that's how it all got started.
that's neat.
You have won national championships of the USEF and the USDF. Let's take it from the very beginning. What are the levels in dressage if somebody wanted to get into this sport? And what is the best way to get started? And let's take this all the way to the Grand Prix on just breaking it down how dressage works from a discipline perspective.
Well, if you talk about like what dressage is really, the history of it, it's in the beginnings, it was really in trying to gain control of your horses when you're out in the battlefield. The cavalry used the dressage exercises a lot to really get to know their horses and to be able to control their horses in the midst of battle. So, that sounds very, very fancy, but of course today we don't use it in those terms. Now it's a sport, and we try to refine those movements to then put it together into programs or / tests. And you start in the lower levels where it's more about simple patterns and riding the basic of the gaits to all the way up to the Grand Prix, where you're riding the very high collections like the Piaffe and Passage, and a lot more difficult movements.
So, Michael, in 2008, I believe, was that your first your national championship?
Yes, correct.
So I'm always curious. I always like it. Did the horse, like everybody thinks sometimes you train the horse, but sometimes the really good ones, they kind of do it themselves. How did that work? Was that the horse that put you on the map, or was it, is that your favorite one of all time? How did that come to be?
Yeah, it's funny you bring him up, because we were just sitting last night talking about horses of the past, and he definitely came up. I think he definitely did set a tone and kind of brought me into the limelight a little bit. I had some horses in the past that had done really well that I had started. When I first started showing here in the US, I was showing horses in hand or on the line at breed shows for USDF. And it was anything from foals and brood mares to yearling fillies and colts, and that sort of led into me taking over the starting process, excuse me, of the young horses on the farm at Hilltop. And at the time when I was doing this, those horses would then move on to the next rider. And that horse that I won the national championship 2008, that was Selton. I actually we handled him at the breed shows at Devon Horse Show as a 2-year-old. And then I started him as a 3-year-old and had his early training and it brought him along, and he qualified for the championship. I had no expectations. I felt like I didn't really know what I was doing. But he was just a wonderful horse. It's just one of those special horses. I really felt like if I said, we need to ride through this burning barn, he would say, okay, Michael, if you think that's a great idea, let's do it. But he went on to great things, and he ended up getting sold in Europe, ended up on the Danish national team. He competed in the Olympics, and then he came back to the U.S. and competed in North Carolina in Tryon for the World Equestrian Games. So it's pretty nice to kind of have that. I was not the one competing him at that point, but that he had such a career, and I had a little bit of,
he had a big part of it.
Yeah.
You bring up a good point, and I think that a lot of the disciplines are saying to people that are training their horses, start with dressage. And with that in mind, when you start a new horse, do you start right at intro, basic, 1, 2, 3 levels? Is that how you train? Is that the proper process to go through? And then pre-St.
It's a good question. What I do is the starting process for me is like I incorporate a lot of different things. Like I try to like open my mind a little bit and think outside the box. And my trainer, who is from Denmark, Morten Thomsen, he's been working closely with somebody. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tristan Tucker, but I had Tristan Tucker. He's Australian originally. He's based out in Holland right now. He runs this program called the TRT method. I have the great benefit of meeting Tristan and having it at Hilltop twice. And for me, that was a huge game changer. In just the way he communicated with the horses, he helped me a lot in thinking of horses and starting them under saddle in a very different way, and just reading them differently. And for me, that really changes how I bring them along in the process of teaching them things. I think the horses are such amazing individuals. They're so incredibly smart. I think we don't sometimes appreciate that enough, how quickly they can pick things up, whether we like it or not.
I was going to say good things and bad, right?
Exactly.
I've got the privilege of training many breeds, but one of the things that, if you're just joining us, by the way, everybody, we're talking to Michael Bragdels, who's a world champion dressage competitor and professional trainer at Hilltop Farms in Northern Maryland. Talk to me about breeds. And, we can talk about the rider all day long, but at the end of the day, it's really a lot to do with the horse and their athleticism.
Right. It's of course, predominantly I ride warm bloods. And in our sport, dressage, they excel in that sport and just the way they move naturally. But I don't necessarily limit myself to whatever it is. I have students that have Arabs, half Arabs. My wife has students that have some half Arabs right now, and they're thrilled to work with. I think it's just a horse, so it's each horse is very different, what they offer, but it's again, I've come back to they're incredibly smart animals. It's so much fun to teach them things, and as long as you understand how you can break it down to the simplest step, you can pretty much almost teach them anything. But it's just understanding how to break it down to such a simple step that they can piece it together and recognize the reward and get excited about it. That for me is makes me excited when I see that connection.
Sure. And Michael, man, time flies when you're having fun. We could talk all day. It's very interesting. I always enjoy learning about other disciplines and other the way other people do it and how they do it. So this is good. If somebody was interested in getting a hold of you, Michael, how would, if they wanted maybe help purchasing a horse or maybe lessons or what have you, how would you suggest them getting a hold of you?
Well, they can look us up on the internet through www.hilltopfarminc.com, or they could email me, and that's Michael, Michael, at hilltopfarminc.com.
That's perfect. Michael, we want to thank you again for joining us here on Better Horses. And it's always great, as Merle mentioned, is to look through the disciplines and how much synergy we have. Everybody's teaching the same thing. It's just a different type of style.
Exactly.
Yeah. So everyone, that's Michael Bragdell, the world champion dressage competitor. And be sure to check out his Facebook page. And he's also at Hilltop Farms in Northern Maryland. Michael, we want to thank you. Merle, we're going to stop it here. We're going to take a quick break. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine at the Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Hi, I'm Tommy with Heritage Tractor. Whether you're looking to maintain your yard or your whole ranching operation, Heritage Tractor has John Deere mower and tractor packages that make work fly by. With a variety of horsepower and attachment configurations, we have a package to best fit your needs and budget. To learn more about these exclusive packages, visit us in store or online at heritagetractor.com.
Legendary products, extraordinary service. That's our heritage.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered Pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
It's time to go with United Mosquito and Fly Control's premier fly system for fly control in your barn, providing relief for horses from the stress of fighting flies, and also makes a barn more pleasant for everyone in the barn. Easy, effective, and safe. With United Mosquito and Fly Control, we provide a full service. You as the barn owner don't have to do anything. We go everywhere and take care of everything with our friendly fast service. Call today at 913-558-3814 or email Paul at unitedmosquito.com.
2024 is the year to compete in the world's largest horse show, the Pinto World Championship. This 13-day event begins June 8th, starting with our Youth Weekend through June 22nd, and caters to all riding levels and ages. With over $1 million in cash and prizes, there are no qualifications required to enter. Held in Tulsa, Oklahoma, located at the Ford Complex, the Pinto World Championship caters to all types of equines. With over 700 classes, the Pinto Show welcomes a variety of breeds to compete. It's a family environment with healthy competition. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
And welcome back to Better Horses. We appreciate you guys listening in. Hey, Merle, our next guest is going to be just another versatility side of what we've been talking about, of everything you can do with horses. But before we get to that, hey, this segment is brought to you by Heritage Tractor. They're your famous John Deere dealer. And if you want to explore the selections of John Deere tractors, you got to go to these stores, and they got, Merle, implements, mowers. They've got more things to offer as far as everything you need to know about John Deere tractors in Kansas City, Missouri, and Arkansas.
Everything you wanted and a lot of stuff that you need. And don't forget their service department. They've got a great service department there.
So to answer the question, I'm training my horse for a lot of arena work. We talked about the Pinto Association that is doing their big show, and what to do to get your horse really diversified in training is somebody we have coming up next. Matt Jobe. He's a world champion mounted shooting expert. He's a trainer. He's a clinician, professional trainer. We'd like to welcome this guy, and I've known him for a long time, and he's truly talented, and really appreciate him coming on board. Matt Jobe, welcome to Better Horses.
Howdy, Ed and Merle. Thanks for having me.
So I said this in jest, but I'm kind of serious when I say this. My co-host, Merle Arbo, probably one of the professional trainers in the arena I've ever seen. I've been with Matt Jobe, who goes everywhere in the Flint Hills, from cattle drives to branding to sorting to cutting. If I could switch you guys and your training techniques, you guys have totally be rounded. But Matt, I got to ask you the question. You do a lot of things out in the Flint Hills. What's the difference in training over there, and what techniques do you use over there that you can share with our audience?
Yep. Well, it is a lot different, but yet it's not that much difference. Before I head out to the Flint Hills and work, I like to do a lot of flat work. And so some of the same things that Merle may be working on, I like to have my horse broke. Broke's a bad term. I like to have them really trained before I head out of the arena. So I already have them listening to my hands, listening to my legs, working off my seat before I head outside. And so that part's not so much different. And then outside, just exposure to everything, and then still doing some of the flat work out over the hills. And so I still need them to get soft in the bridle. I still need them to get off my leg. And so all that stuff is critical.
So Matt, when you're introducing your horse to cows, especially, like if you're out there and going through one of the Flint Hills packages, how do you start? Let's say your horse is scared to death of cows. Maybe you're saying, "Hey, I'd love to go out and try that, but I don't know about my horse." How would you suggest they do that?
Yep, that's a great question, and we always work on that as soon as we get in our new guest, and because we want everybody to be safe. You have a lot more fun when you're being safe. But one big key point, I take a lot of 2-year-olds. Yeah, I take a lot of 2-year-olds out there, and the first thing I want to do is I don't want to stand there and wait for the cattle to come sniff me or come look at me. That's a great way to get bucked off or your horse to run away. And so the first thing, I want to build some bravery in my horse. And so I go towards the cattle. I may even trot towards the cattle. I want to make the cattle move. Once the cattle turn and move away from me, then I'll just relax my horse. I may trot along, follow a little bit, but a key point is make the cattle move away from you. Don't wait on them to come at you.
We're talking with Matt Jobe from the Flint Hills Ranching Adventures. You can check them out on their Facebook. Matt, when I'm out in the Flint Hills and we're running these cattle and we're throwing rope, that's a lot of open space for these horses, which scares a lot of riders. So the initial attack of just controlling the horse seems to be the first question everybody has.
Yes, absolutely. And on our normal event, and so just back up a little bit, I'm partners with Rex Bookman on the Bar U Ranch near Strong City, Kansas. And most of our offerings are 2 days. Day one, we get our horses acclimated or people acclimated. Then we start sorting and moving cattle. And so a big part of that is once we know what our horse is at, the level our horse is, the level our person is, we build them up from there. And so we don't just head off running across the hills like wild children. we work on it from step one and we build up.
And that's a good point. I think you so from what I'm gathering, you're saying is you stress control and safety, and it's not just go out there and Katie bar the door and away you go. And it's not like they see on some of the Westerns then, right?
Absolutely. There's no yippee-ki-yay. And we start at the beginning, do a little bit of horsemanship, move our horses around, see where we're at. And then we always have tons of real jobs that have to go get done. And so we go do the job that our guests are able to do. And then, hopefully by the time we're done with that job, they're a little better. Their horses are a little better. We can go to the next job and get the next job done.
So for our national listeners out there, the Flint Hills is thousands of acres of virgin tall grass found in central North America, in Kansas and northern Oklahoma. Matt, they don't just do cattle driving. You have multiple events that you can do there at the Flint Hills.
Correct. So a big part of the business is cattle come in for about 5 to 6 months out of the year. They come in whenever the grass is growing, normally yearlings. And so several 100,000 head of yearlings come in. And usually I think 275,000, 300,000 head come in that do not live there full time. And so we graze those cattle and care for some of those cattle. But our main job and what we use our guests, we take those cattle from off of the cattle pots and we drive them to their summer pasture in the spring. And so that usually consists of 10 acres or 10 miles to 17 miles. And so we'll drive them to that pasture. In the fall, we do the opposite of that. We gather them all up, drive them back, load them up on the cattle pots, ship them wherever they go. So that's some of our main thing, is a few cattle drives in the spring, a few in the fall. And then we also have our spring branding, our fall branding. And then in September, we have what we have is our top hand competition. And so super fun competition. And we take cowboys and cowgirls out for 3 days, and we do some sorting, some roping, a little bit of everything that you would actually do on a ranch, some ranch obstacles. And then we judge them accordingly and crown them a top hand belt buckle, give away some awesome prizes. This year we've added $1,000 on top of the winner. So it's going to be a super cool event.
You know, and just before we got on the air, Ed was telling me that he was a pretty good roper and you could vouch for that. Is that right?
You're breaking up, Merle. What'd you say?
You know, this is how the quality of the program goes down. Without the misinformation out there. It is kind of fun. We're talking about it, but anyone around the country will have the opportunity to do this. And you can imagine having this type of opportunity that's not available for everybody in this country. And Matt, you're opening this up to just anybody, but they're asking the question, how good do I have to be to come to one of these clinics or come to one of these events?
Yep. So our cattle drives and our brandings, we work with people at every level. And we want you to be able to sit on the horse, as far as, hopefully it's not the first time you've ever ridden. And but we'll work with you from your level on up at those events. We typically have, people that have ridden for 6 months of their life to people that have ridden for 50 years.
And Ed, I think you touched on a good spot there too, is this is something that was a way of life for a lot of guys. I mean, 150 years ago. And now it's an opportunity a lot of people don't get. I think it's a really neat idea to, be able to go out and kind of do it the old fashioned way. And it's Matt, is it better for the cows to be worked with horses, you think?
Well, great question. There's several good questions there. Cows with horses. A lot of this country is so big and vast that you can't even get to it on four-wheelers and you can't get to it on trucks. And so horses are still the best way to get to it. And so, yes, on that question, it's also a wonderful opportunity for you to ride your horse and use your horse. And then while we're out there, we do take it as a personal job of ours to educate people and teach them about the history that we had, because in 1880s, cattle did come through here, and they came up from Texas and they went up to Abilene, Kansas. And so there's a lot of history in the country, and we educate them on how many cowboys would have been on a cattle drive, how many cattle they would have pushed, what their top pay was and all that. So it's really interesting to keep the history alive, and it's dying every day. And so we take that as a personal mission to educate.
That's great.
We're talking with Matthew Jobe with the Flint Hills Ranching Adventures, who's promoting the Western way of life. Matt, if people wanted to get a hold of you or get in touch, what's the best contact information you can send out?
Yep. So currently we use our Facebook page mainly, and that is Flint Hills Ranching Adventures. And we are working on a website. Within the next few weeks, we'll have our website up. And then my phone number is 660-537-9542.
Matt, we really appreciate it. Again, that Facebook page is Flint Hills Ranching Adventures. Get a hold of them. I think this is, I've done it. It's exciting. It's great for the horse, and it is a lot of fun. Matt, we want to thank you for joining Better Horses. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate Matt coming on board with us. We talk about all the things that we do. And here's a funny thing that we talk about. You have to get all your Coggins tests, and, we're going into a lot of shows, things of that sort. So we can't stress enough to be safe with your horses. Biosecurity is very important. And it's very important to keep your horses very safe in all of those arenas that we talked about.
Yeah, but we also want to give, if you all are just joining us, maybe you got on the tail end of it, we want to give you all a chance to listen to the whole show. Any place that you get your podcast at, be sure Spotify or any place like that, be sure to log on there to listen to us.
And you know what? We also have our spring newspaper coming out. So great tips are coming on there. You can look at it at betterhorses.com. Watch us on our TV show at RFD, the Cowboy Channel, Equus TV, and all of our local television stations around the Midwest who appreciate everything they do. Well, Merle, we're going to leave it with that. We'd like to give special thanks to our radio producer, Brianna Johnson, and our TV producer, Kelly Creech, for everything they do, and more importantly, our sponsors. So as always, we want you to be good buckaroos and buckarettes. Mind your moms and dads and be brave, but don't take any chances out there. Until next time, I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
Happy trails, and always ride for the brand.